Three, two, one. Cambridge Insider Podcast time again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode. Craig Betson joining me as always. How are you, buddy?
I am absolutely fantastic. You told me I wasn't allowed to sing on this episode, but I'm already breaking your rules.
I feel like that's every episode, just breaking my rules. By the way, my hair looks out of control today. I don't know what's happening over here.
Oh, it looks fantastic. I have a whole hair story that I'll tell you off the podcast
Thank
about my
goodness.
struggles.
Okay. The struggles in Seattle with hair are real. How's the weather? How's the weather there? We haven't spoken about the weather in a while, and the reason I haven't spoken about it is because Jersey weather is terrible this time of year.
It's delightful today. It's been a very nice winter. So far it did rain for 10 straight days, but it's sunny today. It rains for 10 straight days every year here, so we're fine.
All right. Well, good for you. Listen, excited about today's episode. I feel like I'm excited about all episodes we do, but today's especially a lot of news coming out of the US, a lot to talk about. So let's kick it off. We have a new president who's officially in office.
Yes, we do. And as a representative of Cambridge Network, I do not have strong opinions about that. But as a representative of somebody that cares about this industry, I think it's a nice thing that's happened. And good things are happening because we have a new president.
All right. And we've been touting that good things will happen. We've sort of spoken about the good things that we hope would happen for a while, and we are starting to see some of those roll out within a few days. So that's very positive. Let's talk about a few of those for anybody that's listening. It might not be on the top of their news. What has happened since the Biden administration took office?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that's happened, and if you've been in a meeting with me in the past, 2 months or so, you've seen my presentation, my slides talking about the F1 visas that are not being issued by the United States embassies and consulates in China, despite them being issued in other countries without any problems or with higher COVID rates. It looks like that is starting to dissipate and that people are starting to be able to schedule new visa appointments. We have not seen like a big announcement, but I think that makes sense considering this was not an official policy. Is the embassies were open, they just weren't processing regular services. And so I had reports, I believe on Thursday, that our families were able to schedule regular appointments. So that is, fantastic. It can get us start clearing that backlog of students that need to get their visas so that we can let families know that it is okay and they will be able to enter the United States.
Yeah, this is massive. I mean, apart from just the idea that this was one of the biggest obstacles, I feel like if you can't even schedule a visa appointment, it doesn't make you feel very welcome. So just the mere fact that students are actually able to start this process, I think, is a big sort of psychological hurdle that we've climbed over. And Craig, I do want to mention something and would like your thoughts on this. But one of the things that I've been having regular conversations with schools about is, look, we don't have a timeline on exactly when these, when you'll be able to schedule visas with ease. We know that it's improving. But talking to schools about even if this does take some time, you've invested a lot of money in your online learning, in your IT, enroll students, have a rolling admission season this year more than any other year. Don't have a cutoff date where you stop accepting interviews and students. And even if a student has to, sit for a month or two in his home country, have access to the online learning, which again, you've invested as a school so much money into that, have access to that while they wait for that I-20 and ultimately that visa to come through. That's really a great just strategy for schools to ensure that they catch those one or two late enrollments and applicants that maybe in previous seasons they wouldn't have.
I absolutely agree. And as with everything, we talk about how competitive the market is. And this is a marketing opportunity to show your families that you are able to support them, whether or not they are able to come for day 1 of class or day 10. Being able to show a family, hey, we're flexible. We understand things are a little bit crazy right now. We understand you might have to quarantine when you enter. You might have to, do all these special things, but we are going to make it easy for you to succeed at our school. I think that's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we expect as a whole that the industry will see more applicants the later in this enrollment season that we do go, more so than any other year. So again, if you're open, let's say in July, August, where other schools are not, you have a leg up in terms of the competition. So consider that. Reach out to your PM if you have any questions about that. Anything further about the visas that you want to mention?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. There is this awesome idea that China's opening up and the United States is, and we are repairing relations. But there's actually a very interesting new immigration bill that Joe Biden has proposed and kind of sent the language to Congress. Now we know, if you're listening to this podcast, likely you're an American, and you probably have known that this has been a topic for, I mean, I'm 31, and this has probably been for 31 of my years, something that we've
Giving away
talked
your
about.
age.
Yeah. And so hopefully we can see it pass, but this is very important because it's an area where we were getting crushed by other nations in this competitive industry. Right. We are not just competing with other American high schools. We are competing with specifically Canadian high schools.
Mhm.
And Canada is rolling out the red carpet to bring in international students because they know that it's not just about, money, diversity. It's also about capturing that top tier talent. One of the things we talk about is if we're spending, our resources on educating minds and making them succeed, we would love to keep them as a nation to help our industries succeed.
Mhm.
And this is something that his proposed plan, that we won't go into too much detail, talks about, is making sure that it's easier for students that graduate from colleges and specifically graduate degrees are able to start working in the American industry, whether it's at Amazon, whether it's at Facebook, or whether it's at any number of places. But giving students that opportunity to join our workforce, which is really kind of the lifeblood of this industry a
Mhm.
lot of the times, right, is where we have families looking at coming and realizing the American dream, just like you, my friend Steven, have done,
That's it. That's
and
it.
coming and being educated here and working here and living in our free society.
Yeah, very good point. And I go back to this example a lot. You guys are probably tired of it, Craig and executive producer Dean, but the research into and production of the vaccine is case in point. Many of the companies, and you can quickly research this if you Google this, but many of the companies that actually produced vaccines and then have started rolling those out, those are headed up by immigrants, people that came to this country, that were educated in this country, but they've come from somewhere else. And those are the types of brains trust that we want to keep. Yeah. And I think most importantly, Craig, I love the point that you made. That's really the lifeblood, the motivation behind this industry is people can come here, they can contribute to the economy, but they can also live that better life. So, I love that idea. I really do hope this gets passed, and we'll certainly have updates for you as soon as any news on that breaks. Mr. Batson, anything else about visas specifically you want to mention, or are you happy to move on?
No, that's our visa update.
All
That's
right.
that's a big one, right?
I
We
was
got,
getting cool and casual visa update.
yeah, it's, hey, it's just the biggest thing holding back the industry for the past 6 months.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's been removed.
it's positive. It's positive. Let's talk a little bit about travel bans, because that's also been a big one, and sort of one that's ebbed and flowed a little bit. And we've seen students being able to get into the country through using different methods, flying to different countries. Where are we with the travel ban? Because that's one that we want resolved as soon as possible as well.
Yeah, so we saw, as President Trump, former President Trump, was leaving office, he relaxed a lot of travel bans. He relaxed the Brazilian one, he relaxed the United Kingdom one. He did not relax the Chinese travel ban. So right now, there is still a travel ban on anybody that was in China in the past 14 days. And so we're still waiting on that one to be lifted. I expect that it will come soon. There's a lot of talk about President Biden, who has now removed a number of travel bans, but those are not COVID-related travel bans yet. My expectation is that they are working on a new set of rules, and that takes time, and they will roll that out here in the coming weeks. That is what we're looking at now. So nothing yet, but laying the groundwork for future.
Okay. Okay, that's important. I mean, as much as we'd like that to be resolved immediately, we really are aiming towards closer to the fall to have that fully resolved, so that any new students that we do recruit are able to obviously come into the country. Obviously, if it does get resolved before that, what we're hoping is that some of our re-enrolling students that are currently doing online are able to travel to the country safely and securely. And that sort of coincides nicely with the vaccine rollout as a whole in the US. Reports through most parts of the country, I suppose, are saying, within the next 6 or 7 months that, the vaccine will be widely available to anybody that wants it. So that's good news. And again, that timeline might change, but that's good news as we head into the fall recruitment season. Talking about students coming to the US, talking about them coming here safely, I did hear this week about new mandates in terms of anybody traveling into the US, as well as in terms of masks, if I believe. Do you have more details on that for us?
Yeah, so Joe Biden really got the ball moving. He's spending most of his time on coronavirus right now. It's a massive shock, I know. But he is reinforcing CDC guidelines at a number of levels. So now masks are required on airplanes. They are required for interstate travel. This is no longer airline policies, which could vary. And now they are official United States policies. Specifically, the biggest one is you must show a negative COVID test taken within 3 days of your international flight. And so that is something that they won't let you board a plane unless you can show them that. Now, we were already seeing that with most of our airlines, but it wasn't required. He also has started reinforcing, and he hasn't rolled out a specific requirement for the CDC guidelines, but he has said that we plan to enact them, which includes quarantines. This is not a quarantine like they have in China or Australia, where you have to go to a quarantine hotel and you stay there for 7 to 10 days. We're actually seeing that a lot with, if anybody's following what happens with the Australian Open right now, they quarantined all the world's best tennis players. And I personally would like to see something like that in the United States, but that's not there yet. But it is a guideline now that people do need to quarantine.
Okay. I like this, simply for the fact that I think it makes families and parents abroad more willing to send their students to the US. I mean, the reality is, if you're sending your kids thousands and thousands of miles away and you're unsure of what the policy is, you're unsure whether they're going to be safe with regards to the pandemic, that's not very tempting. Versus now we have a lot stricter, but just a lot more clearer guidelines on what's required to come into the country. It seems like a safer place for somebody being thousands and thousands of miles away.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
All right, Mr. Batson, anything else in terms of the new administration, where we are with the industry that you'd like to update us on, or is that it?
That's what I have for right now. We will be recording news update pods. We've had a lot of guests on recently, which we really enjoy. We have a great guest episode coming in next week as well with Sarah Guo from our academic services. Absolutely. But after that, we will continually record updates on the changing news, just because it's moving so fast.
Yeah. I agree. It's always good to have the guests on, but really our primary function in this podcast is to bring you that cutting edge information, those news updates as they break. Mr. Batson, final thoughts from your side. It's Friday.
It feels good, Stephen. I won't say why it feels good, but it feels good. It feels very good. We are a under Stephen, we are a non-political podcast.
As we should be, catering to everybody. Craig, as always, I hope it doesn't rain any further in Seattle. To all of the positive feedback that we've received from school officials that are listening, we really do appreciate that. Drop us a line. Craig will make sure, or executive producer Dean will make sure that the contact details are in the show notes. share the podcast as well. If you're a school official, you have somebody in a different department that might find this interesting or useful when they do work with international students, be sure to share this. And as always, thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you around the next episode. Bye-bye, everybody.